The story of this forbidden anime begins with Asada having his Excalibur carefully inspected by Shiz and Ary. Both seem to be fixated on it, as if their very lives depended on it. Surprisingly, that is actually the case because both ladies believe that Asada's Excalibur is their only salvation. You see, the entire world is under the threat of an ancient curse, and the only way to save it is by using sacred energy. And you've guessed it, Asada is actually the chosen one. While examining Asada's Excalibur, Ary points out that it has activated its hardening skill and is shaking non-stop. Asada explains he can't help it because it's Excalibur's built-in defense mechanism for such attacks. Shiz tells him it's alright and that he shouldn't fight back because he's the future of their world. She then uses her twin personalities and the forbidden Hawk Tua technique to polish his Excalibur so its mana can flow better. Asada says that if they continue to do that, he won't be able to stop his Excalibur from unleashing one of its ultimate skills. However, the two beauties don't heed his warnings and simply continue with the polishing ritual. They even demand that he take his Excalibur to their dungeons and unleash his Mana Burst ultimate skill inside to paint it with his mana. So just like that, Asada's Bluetooth device is connected successfully, and the first one to experience Excalibur's mighty power is Shiz. Shiz tells Asada not to hold back and go full power. As he does so, she tells him to carefully listen to the cultural noises that the pink dungeon is making and says the Meikoku should be arriving soon. Curious, Asada asks what it is, but Shiz confesses she doesn't really know, but she believes he is the one who can save them, their last hope. Hearing this, Asada can't help but wonder why she would be interested in a simple guy like him. Shiz says she believes Asada is the perfect vessel for the sacred energy needed to lift the curse of the Meikoku. However, to achieve this, he must first reach Nirvana, and the best way to do that is by unleashing his mana inside the pink dungeons. Ary also helps out, and lets Excalibur's Bluetooth device connect successfully for her as well. She also tells him he knows what he has to do to save the world. He must appreciate them multiple times and explore the pink dungeons until they can no longer stand up. Now inspired to save the world, Asada stops holding back and relentlessly explores both the pink dungeons in front of him non-stop. Both Shiz and Ary get overwhelmed and struggle to stop their mind from turning into porridge. Shortly after that, Asada says he's feeling strange, and Shiz says it's probably the Meikoku's effect. She can feel Excalibur's overwhelming strength and says she can't stop stepping on Legos over and over again. Not long after that, the destined moment arrives, and Asada unleashes all of Excalibur's mana in the deepest sanctum of the pink dungeons. When he does, Shiz and Ary let out a loud cultural sound as their mind slowly goes blank because of the overwhelming mana surging inside the dungeons. As for Asada, his bracelet suddenly glows, and he says he can feel a strange energy flowing through him. Shiz praises Asada and says their sovereign has finally arrived. However, she then says it's too early for them to celebrate. With great power finally bestowed upon him, he now has great responsibility. So Ary tells him to set forth and help the people around them now. Just as she says that, Shiz notices that the Meikoku has arrived and has enveloped the entire area. So, Asada sets forth on his journey to save the world with his mighty Excalibur and its sacred energy in tow. Sometime later, Asada finds his Excalibur being suffocated by the massive twin personalities of a track player named Kira. It seems she's now under the effects of the Meikoku and in desperate need of Asada's sacred energy. Kira uses the forbidden power of friction and her karaoke skills on Asada's Excalibur. She tries to explain that she is only doing so because of Meikoku's effects. However, she quickly realizes she isn't prepared for Excalibur's power. The culture within her rises, and she can no longer control herself. So, in the end, she gets a shower of Excalibur's mana. At this point, Kira becomes honest and says it wasn't enough to save her. So, Asada immediately goes on to send his Excalibur deep into the new pink dungeon before him. Excalibur's power makes Kirika lose control, and she says she can no longer think straight because of how it rocks the inside of the dungeon. Unable to bear the rampaging culture within her, she asks Asada to unleash Excalibur's mana right away. Asada understands the assignment and goes all out. He relentlessly lets Excalibur perform its ultimate slip and slide attack. The non-stop barrage overwhelms Kirika, and she can't stop letting out loud cultural sounds like a crazed animal. Asada tells her to endure it because it won't be long until he's able to set her free. He then grabs hold of her massive personality so he can get a better grasp of it. To his surprise, holy life fluid explodes from them, which suddenly weakens Kirika. She tells Asada she can no longer take it anymore, but he tells her to hold on. It quickly reaches a point where Kirika loses all her composure. The only thing left in her mind is Asada's Excalibur and the anticipation of it releasing all its mana inside the pink dungeon. Of course, when the time is right, Asada lets Excalibur unleash its white splash ultimate skill, filling the dungeon with an explosion of mana. Kirika's mind goes blank once again as she steps on Legos, while the mana surges into the deepest reaches of the pink dungeon. The only thing she can do is call out Asada's name and drift into unconsciousness. Later in the day, Asada finds himself in the office of the Council President Rio. Just like Kirika, she too has fallen under the curse of the Meikoku. The only difference is that Rio has a more arrogant personality, and it shows by how she openly looks down on Asada as she polishes his Excalibur. However, due to the effects of the Meikoku, she also can't hide that the culture within her is already going out of control. She shows the pink dungeon she owns to Asada and says they should let their culture run amok together. At this point, the Meikoku has fully taken over Rio's mind, and she no longer holds back her cultured thoughts as she uses the power of friction and her forbidden footwork to test the limits of Asada's Excalibur. However, to her surprise, Rio suddenly feels strange and panics when she realizes she's about to step on Legos. It's something she doesn't want, but knows it's already too late, because not only can she feel the Legos beneath her feet already, she also feels the mighty power of Excalibur about to burst. Of course, when the time is right, Rio lets out a loud cultural scream as Excalibur's mana explodes in front of her while she steps on Legos. As Rio's eyes glow because of the Meikoku, she gladly tells Asada that playtime is over and it's time for them to get serious. In a flash, the Bluetooth device is connected successfully again, and Asada watches Rio show off her rapid squatting skills. While she does so, Rio once again looks down on Asada, condescendingly asking if he likes the pink dungeon she owns. Meanwhile, Asada is concerned that she is going a little too fast and warns her not to let the Meikoku take over so fast. Of course, because of her arrogant nature, Rio doesn't listen at all. She even blames Asada, saying she can't hold back because his Excalibur is just too powerful, and she can't avoid going all out. He once again warns her that she's getting too aggressive, but her mind is already closed, saying he's the one who is wrong. She goes on to deny that she won't step on Legos by showing off her rapid squatting skills. However, just as she says that, Asada makes her brain short-circuit by pinching the rosy cheeks of her twin personalities. In that moment, she feels vulnerable and ashamed of her reaction. However, Asada quickly tells her she doesn't have to be ashamed because, like the others, she too is under the effects of the Meikoku. Once again, Rio's stubbornness surfaces. She denies that Excalibur is making her feel overwhelming cultural emotions. However, as soon as she says that, Excalibur reaches the deepest sanctum of the pink dungeon she owns, and her mind immediately goes blank. Asada, being the gentleman that he is, notices that Rio is at her limit and says he'll finish the salvation ritual fast. He stops holding back and unleashes the full might of his United States of Smash over and over again. The force overwhelms Rio, and she loses all her intelligence. Her brain melts thoroughly, and the only thing she knows how to do is let out loud cultural sounds that quickly fill the room. Rio panics because she can no longer control herself. All her arrogant composure has gone out the window. Like all those who have crossed paths with Asada, the only thing she can think of now is his Excalibur. In the end, despite her efforts to stop it, Rio fails to stop the holy water from spilling out of the pink dungeon she owns. At this point, she has now let Asada take the wheel and is at his full mercy. Shortly after that, Asada tells her that Excalibur's mana is about to overflow. Rio tells him to stop because she knows what happens next will change her. However, Asada doesn't stop at all because he wants to save her from the Meikoku. So, when the time is right, he lets Excalibur unleash its mana in the deepest sanctum of the pink dungeon. As a result, Rio's mind goes blank after she steps on Legos due to the torrent of mana flooding the pink dungeon she owns. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the area, other ladies have also fallen under the curse of the Meikoku, and the only one who can save them is Asada and his mighty Excalibur.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel.